That song you love is on right now, not later, not on a playlist, not something you have to pay for. I mean live, right now. That's called radio. In Seattle, that's called Warm 106.9.
If they are judging, it is not with some like self-righteous condemnation that they have in their heart. It is with the intent of, seeing a deficiency and trying to coach it out of the person, seeing some attribute that might be lacking in the client and trying to build upon it or improve it.
Hello and welcome to the Glen Gilbert Connection. My name is Glen Gilbert, and today I'm joined by Chris Bulik, host of the Good Faith podcast and a life coach who specializes in supporting autistic young adults. We're talking about what truly makes a coach effective, the attributes that create trust, growth, and real transformation. Chris, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate your time.
Hey, Glenn, thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great chat before. And just, let everybody know a little bit about your history and coaching and how long you've been doing it and the type of clients you have.
So I'm a life skills coach for adults with autism. And I think my oldest client is 33 years old, just a year younger than myself. And my youngest client is about 20. No, my youngest client just turned 30.
Oh, so these are adults. Yeah. I thought they were. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so we teach for a private college or a private school. And once the kids reach college age and there's like less supports for individuals with autism at that age, then they come into our program, which is the adult life skills program. And we teach them just general life skills that people need to have, like how to eat at a table with their mouth closed, how to communicate effectively, how to, greet people with courtesy and remember people's names, and how to do a bench press, like all different types of life skills that I think young men are benefited by knowing.
And you've been doing this for how long?
4 years as of March.
Okay. And what is I think you mentioned, off camera, how we were talking about one of the main things you do is like an exercise routine. And why is that important?
Well, because I mean, even much.
Oh, I'm sorry. We should clarify. You're coaching men only.
Yeah. Well, so our team is about like 10 to 15 young adults, and 3 of them are females and the rest of them are males. And our coaching staff is heavily female. As we all know, the educational industry is very heavily female. So yeah, like the few men all coach men, and the women coach the rest.
And why is physical fitness an important part of your coaching routine? Well,
because I think everything stems from your physical fitness. Like even your brain is physically within you. So like I believe your mental health is an extension of your physical health. If you are working out, if you're in good shape, then your brain performs better. So I think that everything from how they breathe, how they move, the pain that they experience, how they sleep, their cognitive function, all of that is improved. They have longer lives, more longevity from being physically fit. So that is like the first priority to me.
Nice. So what do you think someone should look for when choosing a coach? Like what are some non-negotiables someone should be looking for when deciding on a coach? Since there's, I don't know, a few thousand million different kinds of coaches out there.
So we were talking about it a little bit off the air. I think their goals need to be a priority to like the client's goals need to be the number one priority to the coach, and not the coach's financial compensation. Yeah. If you ever find a coach that is like more interested in their own self gains than the gains of their client, that's like a recipe for disaster. So I would say, definitely like a coach that is very focused on realizing the potential within the client. And I think
I would think, I would think if someone is like, hey, make sure you make your payment and make sure you do, make sure, because I want to still coach you, but I want to make sure I get compensated first. So I love coaching you, but make sure you get your payment in there first. I think that would be like the hugest red flag, be like, coming up.
Yeah. But also conversely, I think there needs to be like payment because like people tend to slack more when it's like free. Mm-hmm. So like you can't charge them nothing, and you can't charge them like an accident attorney. Like, we only get paid if you get paid kind of thing. Like, it needs to be like, here's the agreed upon amount. Here's the duration of my services. Yep. Like, you either pay it or you won't. And then like, once you pay it, then I will do everything that I promised to do for you.
Right. Yeah. I would say I've seen coaches where they've put a few things out there where they're like freebies or like a PDF or some type of, here's something to start working on yourself. And it's like and here's videos of me, like actual visual evidence of me helping some clients, or here's some of my, YouTube, videos of, some suggestions and tips I provide. Check those out first. See if this resonates within you. And if you're interested, here's a website where you can sign up, and it's going to have all the details as far as, availability, costs, whatever. But I think going to the whole, hey, if you find value in what I'm saying and what I can provide and what I think we can accomplish, sign up. Here's the cost, sign up, and let's go from there. But when you tell a client, hey, I enjoy coaching you, and I just want to make sure this continues. So make sure you pay me, when you're emphasizing the needs, like you said earlier, the needs of the coach over the client. Like, oh, as a coach, I need you to pay me, and I like coaching you, and I'm finding value in coaching you, and I'm learning a lot from who you are as a person. Make sure you pay me. That could be an issue. Yeah.
And I also think it's a value to have a coach that enforces accountability on their student, and like kind of like an objectivity, like, because like, so a lot of subjectivity can occur in teaching, like, oh, they're doing good, they're doing all right, they're doing okay. Well, like, what does that mean? Does that mean that they're like, are they on track to be like better than their peers? Are they falling behind? Like, there needs to be some type of standard, some type of metric to measure their progress. Otherwise, it's just ambiguous.
For guys, I think for men, it might be different for women, but I can say for myself, at least, held accountable and being able to visually provide evidence in some manner, like, here's what I was able to do. These are some of the tasks I was given that I've been able to accomplish, rather than just talking about it. Like, how can you show that you've actually done things that you are working on? And I guess the whole point is being held accountable is very, very important, for at least for me, and I think for guys.
And one thing that I've heard a little bit, but you were actually the person who had me get into this practice, and it's been a while since I did it, but you had me write a journal of like every night that I went out and what type of results and what type of processes and what type of habits I was like committing. And it made it very easy to figure out what went well, what didn't like go well, what worked, what didn't. And like, I think that's a very good practice for keeping yourself accountable.
100%. You can go back. I have a tendency to really talk down to myself when I'm, in a bad way. If something goes wrong, and, just to just have these really negative thoughts. And so you just start writing these thoughts down, like, okay. And then you come back to them the next day and you start reading them. You're like, holy shit, this is not true. This is crap. And I'm saying to myself, holy crap. And the whole thing about going out and, this is what I did that got these results. And this may be not the results I want. So is it saying that this was bad? Not necessarily, but it obviously didn't get you where you want to go. So how can you change that? So by writing it down, you have some visual evidence of like, this is what I was telling myself. This is what I did. how can I change that to something that is beneficial for myself and those around me? How can I start changing that to bring value to myself and those around me? So for you to be able to start doing that and looking at it in an objective, being like, okay, this is something I'm doing, and it's probably not getting the results not getting the results I want. How can I make that a little different? And what am I doing different that is getting the results I want? Because it's almost like an experiment. Like you're going to try these different formulations, and which one is going to have the best outcome. And if once you get that, it's like, oh, let's just stay with that. So I can always, at least this I know is my best outcome. It's like, oh, if I go out on Tuesday nights, there's nobody out there. Would you continue to go out on Tuesday nights, banging your head and think, I'm not meeting anybody, Yeah. If I'm wearing a bright green shirt and I'm going out, I'm like, why doesn't anybody want to talk to me? It's like, probably don't wear the bright green shirt anymore. Let's try and, dress, blah, blah, blah. So it's always this kind of experimentation on what works and what doesn't. If you're telling, like for me, it was like, I'm telling myself a bunch of negative crap. And it's like that and then now it's like when I catch myself, I'm like, oh, that's just crap. And it's just like, I can just dispose of it now. But yeah, I think that's brilliant. You're going out there and just kind of documenting what worked and what didn't. Yeah, fantastic. What would you think is like, how important is specialization when selecting a coach?
I think it's pretty important. Like I would rather be coached by a master of one than a jack of all trades. And like, yeah, you got to figure out what your biggest defect is as a student. Figure out whether it's like fat or weak, or like I suck at overcoming anxiety, or I'm way too negative on myself, and then find a coach who excels in whatever your single biggest defect is, and then and let them coach that defect out of you.
Yeah, if you're finding, that's exactly right. It's like, I'm finding a defect that I don't like about myself. And then if a coach could be like, is it a defect? Is it really good or really bad? Kind of go into that little deeper. But yeah, okay. So what are some things you can do to start moving away from that? And I think a lot of people find that part of finding and working with a coach, really difficult.
Yeah, like I just recently came from Las Vegas immersion, which, if anybody doesn't know, it is basically like it's like baptism by fire, and it exposes you to talking to hundreds, maybe thousands of people in 1 week of time. And if you look at me, like four or 5 years ago, I was deathly afraid of talking to strangers. I really was an introvert. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I learned through good coaching different tools and techniques that I can use to just, casually compliment other people, learn their name, look at them in the eye. It is so powerful, I'll say, to just know what a person's name is. Like there was a few times where and a lot of people struggle with this. You tell them your name, it goes in one ear, out the other. But there was one time where I took the time to remember this guy's name in Vegas. He was a bouncer at the MGM casino. And then like later in the week, I'm in line at another day club, and and who do I see there? He's like stopping me there, and I guess I'll just say his first name. His name was Chemo, and I remembered that because he was like, chemo, like chemotherapy. I was like, oh, all right, chemo wasabi or whatever. But so then I was like, yo, chemo, like, let me in. And his ears perked up. He was like so surprised that some random stranger knew who he was,
Right. That goes a long way from, when you're meeting somebody, and I try and repeat their name, but I have the same issue where I'm like in one ear and out the other. I'm like, oh, that's so bad. It's so bad. And
it's hard. Yeah.
That's why I have to, hey, Chris, how are you doing, Chris? How's your day going, Chris? I have to repeat myself, their name constantly.
I think you could do that, or what I like to do is kind of make some type of inside joke. Like I said, chemo wasabi, chemotherapy, just come up with some way of associating that person with another person of the same name or something,
100%. Yeah. Anything to help yourself remember it.
Yeah.
So what do you think are some differences between, or how can someone tell the difference between signals like discomfort that signals growth versus discomfort that signals a bad fit with that coach?
Well, that's a good question. I think there's a difference between discomfort and pain. If you are experiencing like true pain, that might be the sign of like of really bad discomfort that you need to stop doing, but if it is just uncomfortable, if you're just getting butterflies, if you're just sweating more, or you got the like shakes and you're just very anxious, and what is it, the parasympathetic nerve system that is activated?
The fight or flight.
Yeah, like if it is just that might mean that you just need a little bit more exposure to it before you can turn that discomfort into comfort.
Yeah, I like to describe it as how big is the volume in your head. And going to coaches and going to therapy is a way of saying, I have there's an issue here that I want to work on. How open is the client to being in an uncomfortable space? Because it's going to cause those clients to be in an uncomfortable space, but they're there for a reason. They're there to overcome something that they feel is just not working for themselves. And I think a lot of people maybe aren't prepared for that. I think, we talked about this before where you've had friends, and I can say this myself, where they get in a situation with the group and they're asked to do X, Y, and Z, and they get through maybe X, if that. And then they're like, everything else is like so uncomfortable. But then on the flip side, it's like, what kind of signals are showing like a bad fit? And I guess we talked a little bit about it before. It's like if the coach or the therapist is more in tune to their own needs over yours, that should be a big red flag. If they're just, well, you need to make sure that you sign up again, and you need to make sure that you're all paid up before we meet, and you need to make sure that because I enjoy the sessions with you, and I'm getting a lot of benefit out of this. Those should be like some serious red flags. But that discomfort signal, just signaling growth, is just getting out of one's own comfort zone.
Yeah,
that I kind of equate it to. If you're working on yourself and all is like a rock bed, like I am familiar with this rock bed, and you don't even realize how uncomfortable it is because there's nothing to compare it to. But this is my comfort zone. This is where I'm at. This is my rock bed, just because it's a familiar place to be. And having somebody else go, there's something else. There's this soft, cushy bed over here with feathers and stuff. But you have to go through all of this, fire and danger and stuff just to get there. People are like, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll just stay on this rock bed and just stay in my little familiar zone of comfort.
Yeah.
And so it's, I think people should be aware of it. You're going to get uncomfortable. You're supposed to get uncomfortable. That's part of growth. That's why you want to get a coach, and just be mentally prepared for those, that discomfort that I will get in an unfamiliar place, and to be able to grow and develop and change needs to be okay to be in that uncomfortable space.
Yeah. I like, for the longest time, Philadelphia has been my comfort zone. Like the only time that I ever went away from Philadelphia was to go vacation with my mommy in San Diego or Denver. And then like this year I went to, these past 2 years, I went to Omaha, I went to Tampa Bay, I just went to Las Vegas. In a few weeks, I'm going to Pittsburgh and Cincinnati and Kentucky. Like, I'm really starting to explore, and like the world's like a beautiful place. Like,
yes.
Your comfort zone is not going to have everything that you need to like enrich your soul.
Yeah. I went from, I used to call it a comfort zone too, and I'm still working on this. It's like a familiar zone. It's it's comfortable because it's so familiar, but it may not be the best, it may not be good for you, but it's so familiar, it feels comfortable, that kind of thing. But traveling the world is such a great way to get out of that comfort zone and to also meet people and learn to talk to people and strike up conversations with strangers and just get more outgoing. I think after getting out of a relationship, one of the toughest things for guys, at least, is just to start up new relationships, period. And one way I've suggested, to myself and to others is just strike up a conversation with anyone, anywhere. Whether you're, checking out with groceries or you're at a restaurant, talking to the bartender or the waiter, just start getting comfortable having conversations, because that alone is probably going to be something that's unfamiliar and uncomfortable. And it's really not that hard. Like you said, you've got this guy, his name's Chemo, who was so impressed that you remembered his name. Did he let you in? When you're like,
yeah. Well, I will put a disclaimer in here, guys. Don't go to the Palm Tree Beach Club in Las Vegas. And if you do, they actually have a dress code. I was like, oh, I'm going to a day club, so I wore my Oklahoma City Thunder basketball jersey, and they're like, you have to check your basketball jersey in at the locker, and you got to pay I don't know, $20 or $30 to do that. I was like, are you serious? I'm at a beach club. It's a tank top. But yeah, so you actually have to dress. You have to dress up to go to a beach club.
So the message here is watch the dress code even for beach clubs when you're in Vegas. Yeah. I gotcha. That's funny. So what's one attribute you believe coaches underestimate, but clients feel immediately?
What's one attribute? An attribute for coaches?
Yeah. What do you think, in your opinion, coaches might underestimate, an attribute a coach might underestimate in themselves, but clients notice that immediately?
I think of one of the best coaches that's ever been in Philadelphia. He was the defensive coordinator of the Eagles. His name was Jim Johnson. And he used to tell all of his players, I will not treat you all equally, but I will treat you all fairly. So he knew that some of his guys could handle being on the golf course and playing a round of 18 and then go to practice and be in tip-top shape. Other guys need a little bit more care. You need to personalize each client's needs and coach them accordingly. You can't just treat everybody the same. So I think a good coach takes the time to understand their client and specializes their coaching for that person.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a great point, to be able to be flexible enough and empathetic enough to recognize if you're going to be a coach, each person is going to be a little different. Each person is going to be unique, and their issues are going to be their issues. It's not going to be one. I think there's generalities that we can apply to each person, but each person has been on their own journey, mission, experiences, and it's going to be unique to themselves. I think it's a great point to be hey, clients will probably recognize that right off the bat when you're trying to fit them into a different type of structure, that they're not, this doesn't work for me.
Yeah. I think two guys that I'm thinking of right off the bat are Lawrence Taylor and Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick cannot coach Lawrence Taylor the exact same way that he coaches Joe Schmo on the practice squad. One is significantly more talented, and you have to you kind of have to tiptoe around them if you want to make them happy and get the most out of them. And then another is a Phil Jackson and Dennis Rodman. Phil Jackson would allow Dennis Rodman to take a weekend trip to Vegas and he wouldn't even know where the hell he was. But but there ended up being a lot of mutual respect between the two of them, because he treated Dennis Rodman differently than the way that he treated Steve Kerr. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was actually thinking about Phil Jackson, and his coaching style, and There was a lot of reasons why Michael Jordan, why Michael Jordan did not want to be coached by anybody else other than Phil Jackson. Yeah, because Phil was exceptional. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If this conversation is sparking something in you, take a moment, like, subscribe, and share this episode with a friend who's rebuilding. The next chapter starts with connection. Let's continue. So how does a coach maintain consistency and structure while still adapting to the unique needs of each client? Kind of segueing off of what we were just talking about.
Well, it's very important to have a process and a plan. You can't just be like winging it as a coach. There's like, I think Google spreadsheets, Google Docs are like a great place to to write down a written game plan for how it's going to be, and have boxes, have milestones that you check off once you have like mastered a certain tool. It's it can't just be this whirlwind of learning. There needs to be a lesson plan. Definitely. Yeah, some type of game plan going in is always very important, because I can't see trying to wing it with every client that might be coming in and just be like, let's just try, how about this? Yeah. I don't think recipes are just built on the fly, that you got to know what's needed first. Yeah. How does a coach model personal responsibility in a way that encourages clients to take ownership without feeling judged? Well, because I guess they need to that's on the client to put their ego aside and realize that they are paying this coach because they think this coach knows what's best. So they're trusting the coach to have the best interests of the client in mind. And if they are judging, it's not with some self-righteous condemnation that they have in their heart. It is with the intent of seeing a deficiency and trying to coach it out of the person, seeing some attribute that might be lacking in the client and trying to build upon it or improve it. So there needs to be a mutual trust between client and coach that, the only purpose of what we are doing is to improve you as the client.
Sure. Yeah. I would think without trust, you're not going to, the client's not going to stay very long.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. How does a coach create a psychological safety? How do you create psychological safety for clients who may struggle with communication, emotional regulation, and trust?
This is tough because we had a little bit of this at Immersion. We're part of a team. And I felt like sometimes, you're as a team, you're only as strong as your weakest link. But then there comes that point where the coaches are focusing so much on the weak links that it almost takes away from the team as a whole. They're giving a little bit more of their attention and time to the weak link. I don't know. It is a very fine balance, because I do think it's very important that you shore up those weak links, and sometimes you have to be much more delicate with your coaching for them. They don't receive things the same. I've always kind of prided myself on being more of a stoic and more of a tough guy. So I would rather you not give me this long-winded word salad that's fragile on my emotions. Just tell me exactly what it is in as short of a sentence as possible, so I can take it and run with it.
Yeah, it's kind of like being in a victimhood mindset of, let me just complain to you about my world, and then let me walk away, versus, something brief of this is what I'm struggling with, and then go, okay, let's work on that. And let's do something where we can be, show some outcomes and work on something tangible, that kind of thing. So So if you had to choose one attribute that predicts long-term coaching success for both the coach and the client, what would it be and why?
Well, for the client, it's definitely got to be persistence, or just an unwillingness to give up. I think I think that's half of the battle of life, is just like so many people just give up before they reach that tipping point. And so like who knows how miraculous their story could have been if they just persisted for a few more days, a few more weeks, whatever it is that they gave up on. And for coaches, I think also I think for coaches it's like maybe creativity and an ability to like effectively deliver a message. Like we said, like we've been saying, you can't treat all clients the same. So you need to be able to figure out what the special needs of your client is, and you need to know how to deliver like coaching to them in an effective way.
Sounds like a sense of empathy, some flexibility, because each person's going to be a little unique, while the client should be held accountable. They're going to try and go back to their old ways.
Yeah.
I just want to quit. I don't want to do this anymore. And it's like, no. We're going to finish this up. You wanted to get to this point, and we're going to hold you accountable. And it's going to feel like and it's going to feel super uncomfortable, but we're going to look at the things that you don't want to do. I think it was Paul Bauer I was talking to about how he held one of the accountable, and it was in a bad way. I believe he said the client was suicidal, and just was in some, like, I think it was just mentioned off the fly, or nobody was able to reach him. And I think Paul was concerned that he was suicidal, and so he reached out to the group he works with, and they're like, if anybody knows or can get in touch with this guy, let him know that we are still thinking of him, and we'd like to see him again, in some way. And I think the guy was just in a bad way, but he wasn't used to all of the support, and he was just falling back into old habits. And then when everyone started reaching out to him, he brought him back. And he was just like, wow, I'd not had this kind of support before, which is amazing.
If I did have like one criticism of the like immersion program, I do wish like some people were not permitted to participate. And not because like I don't like them, not because like I don't think they're good enough, but like I think some people just like simply don't have the tools. Like some people just are just not like built for this like lifestyle that we're trying to achieve. And instead of just taking their money and allowing them to participate, I wish that like some of the higher ups would be like, like this and this standards are not met. Like you're not ready, and we don't want to see you get hurt. Like you're not in a place where you can like participate. Like kind of like the military. Like they don't just let everybody join the military. If you're blind, or if you're like so significantly cognitively impaired or disabled, they're not going to let you go to battle on like a battlefield. And that's not because they don't like you or because you're not good enough. It's just because like you could get hurt by being like ill-equipped.
I think that's part of their disclaimer, or I think any group that's putting something together where they're going to be coaching several clients, the clients need to be aware, kind of what we talked about earlier, is like, hey, you're going to be put into a very uncomfortable position.
Yeah.
If there's still a psychological issue or something that's going to prevent you from getting into that uncomfortable situation, really understanding what that means, it's like continue on with whatever current therapy you have or the other therapy that you need. There are certain programs that are, because they are intense and because you get in such an uncomfortable state, because it is something so different from what you're accustomed to. Yeah, it could be like detrimental, as in not suicidal, but how much benefit are you going to get out of something when you're so uncomfortable you don't want to do it? You just like, no. And I can say I personally fall into that trap of like, holy like, I can tell you my first immersion experience was holy what the hell am I doing here? I had a lot of anxiety. I was like, whoa. And it wasn't, it had to do with a combination of all these different things going on. But, in the umbrella of everything, I think it's beneficial to be immersed in whatever your fear is. I think there were some books out there. I think it's called like the Masculine Relationship or something like that, to where it's putting yourself. You're in a state of meditation, and you're putting yourself in that mindset of like, here's the conflict that I'm going through, but it's just in your head. And so you're recreating a scenario, but it's just in your head. So you basically have this safe space. You know nothing's going to happen, but you're recreating the scenario in your head, and you're realizing nothing's going to happen to me. Like, oh, all this really is in my head, and it really is just a mindset. So I think people, myself included, it's like you have to really be prepared to feel really uncomfortable, and that you're not going to die in the end. You're not, it's not going to be as bad as you originally think. I think for me at least, that's how I started realizing it, is like, oh, I thought this was a really bad thing that I'm going to be going into, and it's really not. No.
Yeah, like I thought it was really cool that like there's a large group of guys, like 20 or 30 guys, and nobody of them was perfect. There was 20, like kids as young as 25, guys as old as 70, some people wearing hoodies, some people wearing like fitted bespoke suits, some guys that were like super extroverted and obnoxiously loud, some guys that were like timid and meek and quiet as a church mouse. And we all were just working there on a common goal to be more socially calibrated.
I think that's a lot of why, and these are all guys, right? This is just like all men within this group, right? And I think guys, that's how we function better, is like we're learning from all of the other guys. We have a common thing that we want to accomplish. Some guys, I like to think it's like maybe 5 to 20% of the guys in these immersions and these group gatherings already are kind of like have a lot of their stuff together. They're already pretty knowledgeable and they're working on it. And this kind of gets them elevated even higher.
Yeah.
But it also includes those guys that I've never been in a relationship. I don't know how to talk to women. It's been years since I've had sex with whoever. Even if they had a relationship, they're just in a bad way as far as relationships goes. And so they're being mingled in with those guys that are already higher up. And the coaches are there to kind of, hey man, this is what we're going to go through, and you're going to be okay on the other side, type of thing.
Yeah, and it's kind of like I believe that because I come from the 12-step fellowship, and like our thing is like you can't keep it unless you give it away. I don't think and any of these coaches are hurt by teaching other guys. So like it's not like it's not like a negative sum game, or it's not like a zero sum game. Like I think there's only benefits to coaching, because like in them taking on a leadership role, they are like more solidified and perceived as of higher status, and the like clients are like pulled up closer to that like high level from it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. But I think overall, looking at it from the large umbrella perspective, is like the coaches are there to see everybody level up in some aspect, in some way. And they're not there to knock you down and reduce you or mess with you in any way. It's like, you're here for a reason, and that's what they're there to help you with. It's just, it's all the cheat codes. It's just, it's not easy. It's not easy.
There was two times over the week where like I'll shout them out because I love them, like Tristan. So like there was two times where I was surrounded by a group of girls taking photographs and all that stuff. Like I was living my life, and like Tristan was like keeping me accountable. He was like, "Yo, are you done your drills?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Get done your drills." And I just left the situation and completed my drills, and then went back to the fun,
And you accountable, man. Holding you accountable. No, you're living your life there. It's like, no. You finish up this other stuff first, because if you don't do it now, you're not going to do it.
Exactly.
And I think that's a sign of a good coach, holding his client accountable.
Yep.
Oh, that's great. So finally, people find you?
So I have a podcast called the Good Faith Podcast. Our episodes most often happen on Fridays and Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I've been getting a little bit more flexible with when the episodes occur. And I've been getting a little bit more sloppy with how rigidly consistent I am releasing episodes, but I have a lot of episodes in the pipeline that are scheduled to occur. Yeah, you can find me on Spotify, iHeartRadio app, Pandora, Samsung Podcasts, RSS.com, YouTube. YouTube's the one that I like most push and promote. Also Twitch, but yeah, like the Good Faith Podcast. And you can find my Instagram page and my Facebook page, Christopher Bulik.
Nice. All right. So thanks for joining us for this conversation. What truly makes a coach effective? If this episode gave you something to think about, share it with someone who's building, healing, or leading with intention. Until next time, stay grounded, stay curious, and keep doing the work. This is the Glen Gilbert Connection. Chris, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.